what I went through didn't make me an opposite person. It made me stronger. There's positives and negatives to it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, one of the positives, I'm very observant. I watch everything. I pay attention. And they say the person you want in a crisis closest to you is somebody who has anxiety because they've already looked at all the doors. They already have a way out if there's a crisis. Now, that could also happen because I've actually had things happen to me. I've been in the line of fire. You can't let the anxiety cripple you. I'm not saying it will never go away, but I've been working on it since I was 21. And I remember a therapist telling me, if there's ever an incident or a crisis or something happening in life, make sure that you go back to that place and defeat that place. Go back into that bar, go back here, go back there, wherever.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Grace and Love podcast. I'm your host, Grace, and today I am joined by a very special person in my life, Margo. She is my TSS and supervisor when I was a coach back working with families in and out of the homes. We would do weekly, monthly phone calls just to make sure that everything was running smoothly, and we have taken that relationship after hours. So truly, she is just family and friend. Margo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good, good. Thank you so much for being
Loving the
here.
lights.
Loving the lights. So is it true that when I first told you about this podcast, you were like, I will support you in that?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I really appreciate that. Look what you've done. I blame you.
No, I remember one of the things that I love is I always like to ask people, where do you want to go in life? What are your goals?
Right.
Because I'm the type of person that doesn't want to stay stagnant. I always have somewhere else to go.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Even in, whether it's in their own company or somewhere else, it doesn't matter. So it's very important to me to ask all of our staff, even if I'm not your direct supervisor, just on our team, what do you want to do? And as I was saying to you before, I just remember you telling me I want to do my own podcast. And then it came up.
Right.
And you said, hey, there's this position. What do you think? And I'm like, go for it. Go for your goals. Go for your dreams. And now you did the interview with Brian and we're here.
Here we are.
Super excited.
This is crazy. And I also distinctly remember you saying, I'll be on your podcast, only audio.
Yeah.
How do you feel sitting here in front of all the lights and the cameras?
Oh, God. I hate it.
Well,
no, it's good. It's good. Okay. I mean, it's hot. It's very hot in here.
I can't say yeah.
No, I'm just fine. But, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you.
I'm excited for our interview today. I think that your story holds near and dear to a lot of our families' hearts. Once they hear it, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's me, or that's my kid, or that's someone I know. And then they'll turn this podcast over to somebody that needs it. Also, if you enjoy this podcast and you're loving these episodes, do share it with a family friend, like and subscribe to this channel to see more interesting content talking about real stories. So, Margo, let's get into your real story. So you were in foster care, in and out of the system, and I hear you aged out. Is that correct?
Sorry, yeah. Yes. Actually, I was on my own at 14. From 14 to 16, I've been to so many places that I don't even remember. But one of the things that I did was, I wasn't getting along at home, and I just knew that I couldn't be there.
Right.
I grew up very fast intellectually, mentally, and emotionally. And I've always had the skill of independence.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I started working with kids when I was a kid. I was 12 years old when I started working with kids at the church to babysit them. And then I also worked at a hospital, do volunteer work in pediatrics. I always knew what my goal was. That was one of the things that my mom told me and my grandma is that if you set your mind to something, there's no barriers or blocks that will ever take you away from that goal.
What was your goal?
Working with foster youth.
Like you?
Yep.
Wow.
And that was before I became a foster youth.
So you knew, you kind of just set yourself up for success.
I invested myself going into that.
So you're saying you manifested yourself to go into foster care.
Right.
So
Facts.
if they had anything to say to you about, well, you don't know what you're talking about, you just be like, here are my papers, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I started working very young.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I was 14, I lied and said I was 18 and told them my license was in the mail. Like, what 14-year-old thinks about something like that, right? And I just continued with it, and I paid rent, and I paid bills, and, I didn't have that guidance. Right. I didn't have that parental guidance. I didn't have somebody to support me and hold my hand through anything. I'm so straight-laced legally that my mom would get a hold of me probably by my pager or something. And I would call her back and she's like, you have court for being a runaway. I'm like, okay,
I'll
go
be
to court. Right.
But I still run away.
Right. I'm still gone. So I go to court and they're like, click, click, keep staying here. I remember my mom telling them that she knows too many people in Sacramento and she will leave if you put her in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. Well, she was right. I went to group home in Sacramento over by juvenile hall, went to school one day, not even a full day.
Right, of course.
Called my boyfriend at the time, picked me up, and that was it.
Yeah.
So that went on for about probably a little over a year. I had court again, went back in, and this time they were like, oh no, we're not keeping you in Sac.
Right.
You're going to Redding.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in juvenile hall probably for about 3 months. Now, the difference with me is I didn't commit the crimes. Right. So I was there. And back then, being a runaway was considered a crime. Mm-hmm. And, Redding's far. I think it's like, 3 hours?
3 to 4 hours.
Yeah. And I went there. And the cool thing about it was I didn't have this thick file.
Sure. Yeah.
The file was about 1 page. And, I'm very open, as you know. So I'm like, I don't care. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So I go in there and the typical, kid that could go and do a group home. Oh, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything,
Sure.
Whatever. I told my story. Later that night, one of the staff, her name was Kat. She was a mother to me, another mother figure.
Sure.
She read my story, my 1-page file.
Because it was a short read.
Right. It was a short read. And I remember her telling me, and I still have a relationship with her today.
Right.
That your story is exactly what you told me. Mm-hmm. And it kind of just happened from there. I didn't have any inkling to leave the group home. Mm-hmm. I was like, you know what? There's somebody that I'm connected to.
Right.
But my focus is like, the first thing I want to do is get a job because I'm used to working at this point. I had to fight the battle. It's always fighting. Mm-hmm. Only having myself to fight for. I was fighting against the directors. They had this perception of me of, oh, she's this or she's that. And I was like, look, I just want to work, go to school, and get through this.
Yeah.
That's it.
Sure.
Beat the system. So I remember back then you're automatically put on probation when you're in a group home. And my probation officer, super special in my life, he was like, look, I heard that you're studying for your GED. I'm like, yeah. Because in order to get out of the system, you graduate high school or you turn 18.
Right.
So I'm studying, and he comes up. I remember my test was on Monday, and he comes up on Friday, and he tells me, I'm not going to let you take the GED.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, I was mad. I was like, what do you mean?
Better, right?
Right.
Yeah. This was you're in the way.
Right. You're trying to take my goal, my vision away from me. I didn't disrespect him or anything. I really respected him. And he was like, well, let me tell you why. He's like, you're not like everyone else. Mm-hmm. There's something special in you. And you have a goal to be a foster care and adoption social worker. And you're going to be that. Mm-hmm. I can't let you do your GED. You're going to graduate with a high school diploma. You're going to go get your AA and your BA and your master's. And you're going to work as a social worker, which you've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I've always been very open. Mm-hmm. So I flipped out Not in front of him when I got back
Sure.
to the
You're a
group home.
lady, of course.
I lived in a home setting. I was also the junior counselor for all of the girls. There were 6 of us.
Wow.
And I remember I freaked out so bad. I was so mad. And I like lifted up the bed. So the beds were like steel bunk beds.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't even know how I did it. And Kat had to come and sit on me to calm me down. And all the girls were watching.
Right.
And she was like, you need to settle down because these girls look up to you. And this is not, you're not showing what you've been showing to them this whole time.
Right.
That moment is what made me realize, you know what? You're right. You're right. They do look up to me. I do have a great relationship with all of them. They all come to me. So me being a counselor started at 16.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and at that point I was like, you know what? I'm going to just bust my butt to get good grades. I was always told I was a piece of shit. Piece of crap. I would never amount to anything. I would never graduate. I mean, I went to 15 high schools my freshman year.
How did that feel?
Going to that many high schools?
First year.
Didn't bother me. You know, I had a lot of fighter in me. So if I got a look, if I got an attitude, if I got a tone, just had to make sure it wasn't mine. I was just my own person. I was like, oh, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
I knew that I was street smart. I've been through a lot. So book smart was not something I thought about until I actually was put into a position where I had to do that.
Yeah.
So when you first go into the group home and you're on probation, you start off at probation school. From probation school, you go to continuation school. From continuation school, you go to a regular school.
Okay.
So I ended up going to a regular school. Then it was time for me to go to foster care.
Right.
I didn't want to go to foster care. I wanted to stay there in the group home, which was the best thing that ever could have happened to me, being there.
Right.
The structure, everything, the support. And I ended up graduating, going to foster care, graduating at 17, early with a 4.0. From there, I came back to SAC at 17 and signed myself up for ARC. Nobody helped me. I just asked questions, as I always do, went into the office. And my career kind of just started from there. I always worked 2 jobs, have to, make it.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. My path just kept changing as it was going. And I was like a long time school person.
Wow. It's
a lot.
Incredible. Yeah. That leads me to my next question. So you sound like you have just kind of always been a young adult, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, you didn't have much of a childhood. Do you feel like your childhood was stolen from you at all?
For my teenage years, when I think back, because I do have 4 of my own children, and I think back of, wow, I wish that I would have had that opportunity to go to the same high school for 4 years, do dance, because I love doing dance. I didn't like hip hop. I did it in college. And just have somewhat of a normal life.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't have any regrets of anything I've ever gone through in life, because it made me who I am today. And starting at 18 years old, working with pregnant parenting teens, that's just not the usual.
Right.
And I'm 44. And I've always worked with families, teens, kids, foster youth, went to be a case manager, crisis behavioral specialist, social worker. I only know this route other than, my real estate stuff. So I have no regrets.
No regrets. I love
no
that.
Regrets. It made me who I am.
What would you tell a youth child that's in the foster care system, gonna age out or just in and out of homes, group homes, foster, and even juvie, what, advice to them? What would that look like?
So I actually I do give advice to them. I still have relationships with most of my foster kids, my THP youth, which is extended foster youth when they age out. I was their person, and one of the things that they loved about me, and even until today, when I work with my families and the kids, is that I'm real and raw. But if I can do it, I'm sitting right here as proof. Don't let the past make you who you are. Don't let it bring you down. So for me, use all of that, everything that you've ever gone through in life, and use it as a tool, as a strength to help other people.
Yeah.
Like I never let that really get to me, because if I didn't go through everything, I don't know how raw you want me to get, but if I didn't go through being raped, if I didn't go through being around addicts or dabbling in my own stuff to kind of figure out, like, is this what I want? Well, no, it really wasn't. It wasn't my thing, thank the Lord. I'm very blessed in that way, but I feel that everything happened to me in life brought me to where I can sit here and say, yes, I have been in your position. And these are the things that I would have changed. And these are the things that I did to get where I am today. So you can't let all the bad things that have happened to you in life bring you down. Don't let it affect you. Use that strength. And this is what I tell all my kids, all my teens were like my favorite,
right?
Or are. One of the things that you always have to think about is there's always something documented when you're in foster care or adoptions. But it doesn't tell the whole story. I had a kid that when I was at the receiving home that they had to call me and say, oh, he's busting out all the windows and he'll only talk to you. Please go get him. He's freaking out. And I did, and I was able to calm him down because I had a great relationship with him as his case manager. But at the end of the day, I had to tell him, when somebody else is documenting this, it's going to be that you did that, but not why you did that. Not your mom has promised to come visit you multiple times, and you're excited and you get ready and you take a shower and you do all of that. And then bam, she doesn't show up. That's not on there.
Yeah.
So you always have to be very careful and mindful of what you do. But it's also things like when you are in the system, your voice, your choice. Stand up for yourself, fight for yourself.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's not always the best.
Right.
Because I, even till this day at 44, I still have that fighter in me. I'm still surviving.
Yeah.
I don't need to be surviving right now. I'm very blessed. I have my job, I have my kids, I have my husband, I have my real estate stuff. Have some other plans going on.
Yeah.
So I don't really have to be in that survivor, but I'm working on it. I still am.
So you are telling me you want to go from survivor to thriver.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's very hard when you grow up and you only have yourself to depend on.
Exactly.
And it follows you. So accepting help for me is like no bueno. It's very hard.
I hear you. Well, that is inspiring. I'm sure you probably have just outed somebody else's story with the windows and, mom saying she's coming and mom is flaky and they're her child. They believe her, they're like, oh my God, my mom is coming to see me time and time again, holding on to that thread of hope, and mom's going to be mom and kid's going to have to learn, damn, she's not coming, is she? And to have somebody like you to find people in these kids' lives that are you to them, right? Is immense. It's so important. Find a mentor, find somebody to look up to that has what you want, right? And if you are all you can depend on, then you better make sure your feet are hitting the ground running, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Have a goal, even if it looks like there's no way out. Your back's on the wall, as we say, and I mean, it's looking bad. You've given some amazing advice, and I appreciate you being here today. What is something that you look for in a child, that it seems to be struggling and stuff? What is something you look for and you'd be like, you have the spark, you can keep going? Is there something like that like, hey, this kid does have something, like you see something in them and you want to tell them?
I do it with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they're, cussing me out or
Right.
not trusting, it's very hard to trust. It takes a while. It takes a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I observe. I'm that kind of person. I watch, I observe. And a lot of the kids, to me, kids that have been in the system are the most resilient.
Oh, absolutely.
You never really know their story. You never really know what they've been through. And it's up to them. The reason why teens are my favorite is because I could actually change their path.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with hardcore real life gangsters, you know what I mean? In every single way that you can think of, whether it was suicidal or anything, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that is out there.
Sure.
And I still believe in them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell them, and it's truth. Like, that's one of the things that even if you're trying to push me back, I know what that is.
Mm-hmm. Like, and I know why you're doing it.
And I know why you're doing it, but I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere.
They need that. That's like, I mean, if these kids were, so to speak, hitting the ground praying, that's what they're praying for. They want somebody
to be down there praying with you and crying with you. I have no shame.
Right.
I'm not prideful like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's bring it out. Mm-hmm. Bring it out raw,
I feel like a lot of these kids that are listening are probably like, okay, well then drop this woman's number because I need that, but how?
I mean, I'll give it to him.
You're going to get like 75,000.
And that's okay because, I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of person. Like, I'm not like oh, look at me, look at me. I'm there for anybody and everybody. Yeah. Because I didn't have that. Mm-hmm. And thank the Lord that what I went through didn't make me an opposite person. What it did was I took that and it made me stronger. Mm-hmm. My life, what I went through, made me who I am today. And I would never take that back, other than getting anxiety, mm-hmm. because that sucks, because that's when I've been so used to being in control of my life. Mm-hmm. And now I'm no longer in control sometimes. So I would get the anxiety, but that's something I had to work on.
Right.
And also having trust issues.
Yeah. That's so interesting you bring up the anxiety. I want to touch on that for a moment. I'm huge on TikTok. I love, there's nuggets of gold in there, and then there's silly dances and kids being silly.
Just happiness.
Right. But some of the most important things that I've picked up on from TikTok, I heard recently about anxiety. What is anxiety? What is it? Why is there anxiety? And anxious people, this is what I heard. Anxious people just want their life to go well so bad that mm-hmm. it's crippling to their physical body, mm-hmm. their mental health. They just want it to go right so bad because they love life. Mm-hmm. They love others. They want it to go well. And it's not that it's not going well. It's just that you have that much passion in you that it's vibrating through your body.
Yes.
And causes this anxiety. And I think that's a positive. I don't think that's something you don't want, because you are so passionate about life. You've done all this work, and you don't want to have to say, I went through literal hell, purgatory, whatever your word for it is, to not have it mean something, right? That's why you're anxious.
Right.
Yeah.
There's positives and negatives to it. Mm-hmm. For me, one of the positives, I mean, you can look at it as a negative as well, but I'm very observant. I watch everything. I pay attention. And they say, I've heard that the person you want in a crisis closest to you is somebody who has anxiety because they've already looked at all the doors.
Yep.
They've already looked at all the people. They already have a way out.
Yeah.
If there's a crisis. When I used to go, say, to a bar or to a birthday party or what barbecue, whatever, I already have everything. I'm already ready to go.
Yep.
Now, that could also happen because I've actually had things happen to me. I've been in the line of fire, literally. I've had, I don't know how raw, but I've had things to my head before.
Yeah.
I've been in situations that I put myself in and also that I was put in. And thank the Lord I'm still here.
Yeah.
Sitting next to you.
Thank God.
But you can't let the anxiety cripple you.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it will never go away, but I've been working on it since I was 21. So, yeah, there were times where I couldn't drive on the freeway. I don't know why.
Right.
I would go the back roads until I started working as a case manager, and I had to go on the freeway to get there. And so I just kept pushing it. And I remember a therapist telling me, if there's ever an incident or a crisis or something happening in life, make sure that you go back to that place and defeat that place. Go back into that bar, go back here, go back there, wherever. Now, I would go to bars and not drink because I also have a fear of getting a DUI, so I won't even take a sip or anything. I'm a planner, so I'm going to plan on having a ride or having my husband or somebody with me that I trust. If not, I go into the bar. I'm just using a bar as an example because I used to have bad anxiety there. But I would sit there and I would watch everybody else and I'd be very protective. Now, that's another thing that can be a blessing and a curse because I am very protective. But not everybody wants it.
Right.
Oh, I remember, I won't say her name, but my cousin telling me, hey, we all know that you're right, but you have to let us learn on your own.
Right.
And it's a constant reminder on our own. And it's a constantly reminder, like, I can't prevent everybody from getting hurt. And it's like, I don't want them to get hurt because I was hurt. Yeah. And I put myself in these situations, but I don't want it to happen to them. But when she said that, I was like, you know what? I can't protect the world. Yeah. They have to learn on their own because I had to learn on my own. And that's what made me who I am, Yeah. It could be very crippling, but, the negative piece is obviously the worry, the stress. Yeah. Oh, it's coming. But you just have to learn the effects. You have to learn where it takes you. Like, what am I doing right now? What position? What is triggering me to feel anxious right now? Do I need to be?
I think the positive that you can take away from this is the fact that you mentioned going back and conquering that place.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what parents, what kids, what teens, what youth need to hear is go back and conquer that fear, conquer that anxiety, make that a takeaway, make that the next step up in your story. That's what you're saying. And I think that's inspiring. I think that's words of wisdom. That's your nugget of gold in this episode. Nugget of gold. Go back and conquer that place. But yeah.
Well, and it's a lot of people can look at it as very shameful. Oh, you have anxiety. I mean, I got it all the time. I was the only one that had anxiety. Oh my God, Margo's going to have anxiety. Oh, maybe we shouldn't invite her because she's going to have anxiety. And it's like, everybody has anxiety. Yeah. And there's not a single person in this world that's perfect.
Anxiety is on a spectrum.
It's nothing that is shameful.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that everyone has the same amount. Everyone has an anxious thought or a worry thought, right? That's what a lot of people call worry. Yeah.
I'm just not afraid to speak about it. I was never ashamed. I was never ashamed because it's who I am. Yeah. And if people knew in such a short time of what I went through my life, and that was only on my own from 14 until, now. Right. Like, everybody has their own story. So, but you can't let that anxiety break you.
Exactly.
And a lot of my families have anxiety or had my old families and kids and stuff like that. I'm like, look, let's just work through it. Yeah. And I could see it. I can feel it. I could see it. I know when a child or somebody's having anxiety, and I just say, okay, here's some tricks. Let's, put pressure points on your hand. Let's try to retrain your brain in that moment You know, if you're religious, do a rebuke prayer or whatever. I had a friend give me one time. And she was like, this is what you need to do when those negative thoughts are coming. And I've been using that since I think I was like 22.
That's amazing.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. I mean, you didn't just give me one nugget of gold, you gave me a gold rush. So I appreciate that. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for looking amazing on camera. And
Suck it in a little bit.
And supporting my dream. I feel honored and blessed to have you with me. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. If you enjoyed this episode, there are more to come. So look out for those in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.